And I would say this to an artist, I would always try to write or draw what I want to read or what I want to see. I'm doing what I enjoy doing. An artist should be able to tell if his artwork is good. You should have an eye. Any kid could imagine he's Spider-Man because no color of the skin shows. He could be black under that. He could be red. He could be yellow. He could belong to any race. If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. I'm going to miss him.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
Are you afraid of dying?
No, not at all. When my publisher said do something, I'd better do it because I wanted to keep my job. I thought, what can I come up with now? And then I figured, just for fun, I'm going to give him personal problems. I ran into my publisher's office and I told him. This was my reaction, the reaction he gave me. Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. I left the office disappointed, but obviously a much wiser man. And I couldn't get Spider-Man out of my system. So we were about to kill a magazine. I think it was called Amazing Fantasy. It wasn't selling well, and we were sending the last issue to press. When you do the last issue of a magazine, nobody cares what you put in it because the book is dying. Just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy, feature him on the cover, forgot about it. A month later, all the sales figures came in. My publisher came racing into my office. Stan, you remember that character we both loved so much, Spider-Man? He said, let's do him as a series. If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. I never tried to write my own characters, but I did a lot of writing when I was in school. I did all sorts of composition. Every time there was a composition class, I knocked myself out to get the best composition. Nobody ever asked me to write stories or to create characters. I used to tell myself stories, and what I would do is I'd take a piece of paper and I would draw a horizontal line, and then I would draw little stick figure characters, and I would move them around. I'd have one character with a white hat. He'd punch the character with the black hat that was the villain. And I told myself little stories on that line that I drew. When I went to work for Marvel, which then was called Timely Comics, I had a job there as I was sort of the office boy. In fact, I didn't know I was going to be doing comics. It was a publishing company. I heard there was a job open at this publishing company, so I applied for the job, and I found out it was for the comic book department, which was a two-man operation, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. I filled the inkwells, and I erased pages, and I went down and got them sandwiches for lunch and stuff like that.
Marvel Comics then?
No, it was, I think, Timely Comics. And I was the best proofreader you ever saw, because I enjoyed those stories. I couldn't wait to read them. And for some reason that I never knew why, they got fired after a while. And I was about 17 and a half, and the publisher came over to me and said, do you think you can keep things going till I find a grown-up, to run the place? Well, when you're 17 and a half, what do you know? I said, sure, I can do it. And I think he forgot about the adult, and I stayed there ever since.
When you began writing comics, did you ever think they would become collector's items?
Oh, absolutely not. I just hoped the books would sell and I'd keep my job and I would be able to pay the rent. The first Fantastic Four story, because that was the first one that I wrote the way I really wanted to write it. Up until then, I was just trying to please my publisher, and he felt, just give them action, that's all they want. So with the Fantastic Four, I tried to do some character development. I gave each one his own distinctive way of speaking, things like that. That was not what my publisher had wanted, and the reason I did it was I was thinking of quitting at that point, and my wife said to me, before you quit, why don't you get it out of your system? Do one story the way you'd want to. The worst that could happen, he'll fire you, but you want to quit anyway. So that's when I did the Fantastic Four. It sold very well. So my publisher came in and he said, hey, how about doing some more superheroes? I'll never forget when I told my publisher that I wanted to do a teenage superhero. He said, you're out of your mind. Oh, and he also said, you can't call a character Spider-Man. People hate spiders. What's the matter with you? Then when I told him I wanted Spider-Man to have problems, Stan, don't you know what a superhero is? It was funny. It wasn't an easy sell. So many artists used to show me samples and say, what do you think of these? Could I be a good artist? And I would look at them and they were terrible. And I would think to myself, if you don't have a good enough eye to know that these samples are badly drawn, you're not going to make it as an artist. But I never knew how to word that, how to say that to the poor guy. An artist should be able to tell if his artwork is good. You should have an eye. And a writer should be able to know after he writes a paragraph, he should read it and say, hey, that's pretty good, or that's pretty dull. You've got to be able to edit your own material. You've got to have that kind of taste. And if you don't, you should try to get into another field, because without that sort of ability to know whether something is well written and interesting written or not, then it's tough to make it in the field of writing or any creative field.
I know I wanted to be a musician when I was young. I'd listen to the radio, I'd hear the big bands, and I'd say, damn, I'd like to be a band leader like Tommy Dorsey. But I had no talent for it. If I had wasted time trying to be a musician, I'd have either been a failure or I'd have been just an ordinary musician. But I love writing also, and it came easier to me. So I figured I'd stay with that. I think you have to do what you do best and what you enjoy, and then you have a better chance.
I guess I'm a very conceited guy, because I only tried to please myself. In other words, I would try to think of a character that I would want to read about. I have found, because I've worked with a lot of writers and hired a lot of writers, they write for an audience. Like, I'm going to write this story for people between 20 and 35 years old. Or I'm going to write this for the people who are in their older teens, let's say from 16 to 20. I never felt that way. I was always writing stories for me. I just tried to write what I would like to read, keep it simple enough for somebody young, and try to keep it intelligent enough for somebody older. But all I was thinking about was, gee, I'll bet it would be fun if this happened. And, oh yeah, and then if he met this guy, but this guy didn't know he would, yeah, and I'd write. You know, it was just, I was interesting myself. In the world of make-believe, you can make things the way you want them, and that's fun. That's what I was writing when I would write Dr. Doom's dialogue. Oh, no, you won't, Reed Richards. I mean, I was acting it out to myself. Every character, I was that character while I was writing him. I don't know what to tell somebody to do, a writer, how to succeed. The only thing I can say is what I did. And I was lucky that it worked. With some writers it might not work, but I only wrote to please myself, because I figured I'm not that different from other people. And I would say this to an artist also. I would always try to write or draw what I want to read or what I want to see. And the chances are there are a lot of people with similar tastes.
If there is something that you feel is good, something you want to do, something that means something to you, try to do it. Because I think you can only do your best work if you're doing what you want to do, and if you're doing it the way you think it should be done, and if you can take pride in it after you've done it, no matter what it is. If you can look at it and say, I did that, and I think it's pretty damn good. That's a great feeling. That's the important thing.
Don't shirk. Whatever you do, give it your best shot. You'll be glad you did.
I'm doing what I enjoy doing. It's like other men like to play golf, so they play golf every chance they can. So you don't say to them, how come you're playing golf today? You played last week. It was the same with me. To me, it is such fun creating characters, writing stories, even doing interviews, even though I can't hear most of what the guy says to me. But I think if you do what really excites you, it just keeps you going as long as possible. I didn't consciously try to buck trends. What I tried to do was write the kind of stories I would want to read. And sometimes I had to buck a trend to do that. I think whatever you do, you should do what you most want to do and what you're best at. Too many people don't really do what their heart's desire is, but they try to do something else because they think, well, it'll be easier to get a job or to make money. And if that happens, then when you're doing it, you feel like you're working. But if you do what you really want to do, you feel like you're playing. It's easier for you to do. I've always been interested in characterization. As I told you, I loved Sherlock Holmes because I felt I knew him, the way he was written. And any good book that I read, I felt I knew the characters. What about their personal life? What about when they're not chasing the bad guy? See, with Superman, I really knew nothing about him except when he took off his glasses, people said, oh, you're Superman. So I wanted to get characters who, even though they had superpower, they had personal problems and they had ambitions and frustrations and so forth. Spiderman, in some incredible way, he has become as well known around the world as Mickey Mouse or anybody. So I'd have to go with Spider-Man.
What do you think it is about that character that resonates?
Well, again, I think a lot of people, especially young people, were able to identify with him. My all-time favorite DC character, did you say?
Yeah.
Probably Superman. Because it seems obvious now, but when Siegel and Schuster created Superman, there had never been anything like that. A person who had all those powers and could do all those things.
Came from another planet.
And it was so imaginative. The only thing they had to eventually create Krypton, because they realized you wouldn't worry about the hero if nothing could hurt him. And you always have to worry about your hero. You know one of the greatest things about Spider-Man's outfit, his costume?
What?
He is completely covered. So any kid could imagine he's Spider-Man because no color of the skin shows. He could be black under that. He could be red. He could be yellow. He could belong to any race. And that wasn't done purposely. It was done accidentally. But I think it was the best thing we did, making him so that he could be anybody under that costume. For example, I like dialogue. I feel the more you know, the more you hear what a person says, the more you get to know that person. So I like to put a lot of dialogue in my stories. Most writers don't do that. They write as little dialogue as possible because it takes a little longer to write the dialogue. I wanted to play up minority races as much as possible too. I felt there isn't enough of that in comics or in the world. I tried to do that.